Very first time here at CC Speedway, coming out of 4, grabbing the checker, your future winner, Austin Carter.
And here they come, battling into the third of the final lap. Austin Carter leads the way to the checkered flag. There's your winner of the Rio Grande Speedway.
Your 2000 Rio Grande Speedway points champion, Austin Carter.
And here comes Austin Carter, and he wins a thriller at the South Texas Speedway.
The Thunder Road Podcast, telling the stories of the South Texas racers from the past and present.
Welcome to Thunder Road Podcast, Episode 2. You guys liked the first one so much, we went ahead and moved forward. Thank you for all the likes, the shares, and the comments. Thank you all very much. Today, I have Mike Riley with me. I actually kind of nicknamed him our historian today. Riley has some history of a local track here in Corpus that I had no idea existed. Riley's got some great photos and some great information about that stuff. Mike, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, James.
I'd like to thank our sponsors, Top Hat Signs and Designs. I'd like to thank Proline Fabrication, 112 Bodies, Chris Dudley, as well as S&S Monuments. S&S Monuments is a new sponsor for us this session. S&S Monuments can do monuments, they can do benches, they can do custom work, stonework, any of that stuff. So get with them for any of your needs, and we appreciate them coming on board. We lost a fellow racer last week, Austin Carter. Austin Carter was the father-in-law of Steve Whitaker Jr. and the father of Carolyn Whitaker, which are both avid race fans and racers here in the Corpus Christi area. Austin Carter, I watched him race when I was a young man at Rio Grande Speedway. He was a legend down there. The gentleman won many, many races. In fact, he won the 1991 Miller Nationals. It was $2,000 purse, and at the time, that was the largest IMCA purse paid in the state of Texas. And the best we can tell, 2006 was his last race, and that was at South Texas Speedway, and he did win the feature there, and Steve Whitaker Jr. was second place. A ton of races, a ton of accomplishments for this gentleman. This is why I created this podcast, or this for a reason. Austin got away from us too soon. We didn't get his stories, we didn't get his tales, and that's really the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, and that's a huge deal to me, is understand these racers aren't going to be here forever, and we have to get those stories. Austin was 66 years old when he passed. He was a great racer and a great competitor, and he will be missed. And like I said, that's the reason why we have this podcast, is to get his stories out there, to get those stories out there before we lose another one. And this weekend at South Texas Speedway, it did get Western. She got a little wild out there. Not going to get in the weeds about all the specifics that happened, but I do want to give congratulations to the feature winners out there. JJ Jennings in the limited modifieds, the guy was rolling. I believe that's his express chassis sport mod. Great job to him. Daniel Preston in the E-mods, he won the feature. He had some competition with Brad Waddups, and those guys are buddies, so it's kind of neat to see that deal. Two guys helping each other out, running first and second. That's a huge deal. That's a great deal. Proud of them. Factory stocks, Mason Castañeda. This is his second feature win at that express car. There's not a ton of those express factory stocks, but the ones that are there, they're fast, and they're going to be contenders. The dwarf cars, man, Dustin Rude, that guy's tough to beat. He is a competitor whatever track he goes to. On the dwarf car deal, that's a traveling series, so they ran that race.
Whoa. First. Wait a minute. Micro mods?
Oh, they didn't race.
No, congratulations. No. James Parks trying to get away without bragging or what?
Trying to. We did pull off the win. I had a great race with my father-in-law, Bill Six. He ran second to me. He showed me a nose, and I had to get on the wheel. So I gave him plenty of room, so my wife didn't get mad at me. We both had a good time. So that was pretty cool. Yes, thank you, Mike. Yeah. The dwarf cars, that dwarf car deal, that's a traveling series, so they ran that feature first, just so those guys could get home. Some of them did stay the night, but that's a huge deal. I ran that dwarf car series, or a dwarf car series, I should say, for many years. That traveling and racing, that's a big deal. Hats off to those guys. They brought a ton of cars out. Local hero on the dwarf cars, Jerry Book. Jerry Book puts in a ton of time at that racetrack. I don't know how many people know that, don't know that, but he does. He's committed to that, and those dwarf car guys are very lucky to have him. So, Jerry Book, thank you. Thank you for everything you do at that racetrack. All right. Man, we had a rollover this weekend. Robert Boyd, out of the McAllen area, I believe. I watched Robert Boyd race when I was a young man. Man, that dude's been around forever. He doesn't quit. There is no give up in that guy. There's no stopping. He comes to the races. He does his thing. He does it his way. He's happy. He has a good time. I'm not sure if suspension broke or what happened, but he got up on the wall in turn 4, rolled the car over, ended up on his lid. The safety crew, great safety crew at the race ranch, they got him flipped over. Had some conversation with Robert's crew yesterday. They said it's just some sheet metal. He seems to be fine. But for 70 years old, man, he's still getting it done. So Riley, there was an incident at the track this weekend, and I normally don't say anything, but this one I had to touch base on, man. The speeding in the pits deal. I can't handle that. I got 2 kids of my own. In my pit area Saturday, there was probably 6 kids. Speeding through the pits it's not a good deal. It's something that you got, as drivers, you have to take the initiative to understand you got to slow down in the pits.
Or certainly no excuse for it, obviously, right?
Whatever happens on the track happens on the track, but don't put our kids in jeopardy.
And these guys come in with their heart rate up around 140, 150, and they're full of passion, and they just don't know when to slow down. But
well, as a flagman, you've probably sent a few of them off. So, I mean, that's part of the deal. But, yeah, guys, look, that's the deal. Just keep the speed down in the pits. Watch out for kids. Watch out for pedestrians. Things happen on the racetrack. Let's leave them on the racetrack. So Mike Riley, our official historian here, I've given him that title. He's got some information on a racetrack that was in the Corpus Christi area. He's got some great pictures from a collection from a local photographer. I'm going to let Mike tell you a little bit about that stuff. Mike, what do you got to offer today? What do you got to show us?
Well, I came across these Doc McGregor photos, and Doc McGregor's fairly locally famous anyway for all the history he's captured in Corpus Christi through the years, mostly in the 30s and 40s.
I believe his photos are at the airport too, hanging on the walls.
Yeah, they're all over town, City Hall. The Corpus Christi Museum of Science and History owns the collection. They have thousands of photos of Doc McGregor. So we built a new office back in 2007, and we had decided that was going to be the theme of our office, was going to be the history of Corpus Christi. So me and a couple of the other girls went down to the Corpus Christi Museum of Science and History and started thumbing through all his photos. They put you in a room and they bring you albums as you request them. They have some kind of list that's organized in some form or fashion.
Is it organized by like date, or you just tell them, hey, I'm looking for a car?
Well, you say like cars or fishing and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so we found some stuff for the office to put in the corridors and the hallways, stuff like the old Harbor Bridge, the old courthouse, some old fishing, old restaurant, barbecue joints and stuff like that.
Cool deal. Ton of history.
And yeah, tons. And so I got in the car one, came across a race, a dirt race, and started thumbing through that. And there were, I don't know, about 15 photos maybe.
Were there any of Lawrence Maklachek there? Did you see any early photos of Lawrence?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Saw the camper on the backstretch.
Perfect.
But yeah, so I decided to do my office in this collection. And so there were dates associated with the photos. So I got the photos. They were, I don't know, it was $400 or $500 to get them copied. And they're not cheap.
And he's donating them to the show. Thank you, Riley.
And anyway, so I went down to the Caller Times and started searching through their archives, and tried to put together some dates on when this race was. So what were the archives?
Were they like microfiche, or were they a disc? Like
actually, yeah, I think they were microfiche.
So you had to put it in that little scanner deal?
Yep. You had to put it in a little scanner deal and look for it. And so what's cool about this race, it's billed as the first race in Corpus Christi.
Ever. Cool
July
deal.
4th, 1933.
If my memory serves, that's a Tuesday.
It is a Tuesday. Man, you're good.
Got a calendar in my head.
You're good. So yeah, so that's the fun thing about it. It was on a Tuesday. They had 1,000 people in the stands, which is pretty cool.
What'd it pay to win?
I don't know, probably $30 or something.
$30 is a lot of money, man.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of the articles. One was dated the day before the race, and the one was the day after the results, and then a couple days after that, made the paper again. I'm not going to bore you with all the details of reading the articles, but there are some interesting tidbits I saw, and maybe you could see something in there that you thought was interesting.
Man, looking at these photos, like these guys are dressed in white, the gals are all dressed up in dresses and their heels. Like, it seemed like it was a show. Like, people really went to these races with the intentions of understanding this is a show, this is a grand event.
Yeah, I mean, there was 1,000 people there. on a Tuesday.
I don't know if we get 1,000 people on a Saturday right now.
Yeah.
Like really.
1,000 people on Tuesday. So obviously people very interested in auto racing in 1933, at least for the first time out.
Yeah.
Want to see what the spectacle was all about.
I'm curious to know where it was at on Shoreline. I'm trying to just figure this out, like where it may have been.
You know,
I'm thinking Cole Park, but I could be horribly wrong.
Well, I get on Google Earth, and they've got a little history button on Google Earth. You can look back, but it's about as far back as you can go is 1956, and there's nothing. You know, I was hoping to see like an old remnant, like if you look at old Riverside Speedway on Google Earth, you can kind of see a remnant of a racetrack. But I couldn't find where it is. And interestingly enough, the July 3rd article, which is the day before the race, calls it Ocean Beach Speedway.
Ocean. So I wonder if it was a North Beach area. Would that be considered North Beach?
Quite possible. But the next articles, the July 5th and the July 7th, call it Ocean Drive Speedway.
So right now we're discussing it, but if you go to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see the photos. We'll just kind of roll the photos through so you can get a look at them. These photos are from 1933. They are not perfect, but they are still very valuable pieces for the history of racing in Corpus Christi. I can't express how important this stuff is. Like, we get this knowledge out there, and Mike taking his time to go find these photos and dig around and dig through this stuff. Dealing with folks is very hard, so I'm sure trying to get these folks just to bring you specific pictures took time and took effort, and we do appreciate you for that. We appreciate you very much.
Well, I was just going to say a couple things in these photos I wanted to point out is they're as you guys put them up on the screen, is there's no front stretch wall. You notice that?
They have leather helmets on too. They're gladiators.
Yeah, probably not buckled in, no roll cages.
I'm sure. I think they intended to fly out.
Yeah.
Man, so going back to my dwarf car days, I recognize some of these cars. Looks like we got some Model A's, we got some sedans. Looks like we got a couple Crown Vics in there, also known as Vickies. What else did you happen to see in there?
According to the newspaper article, there's Willys and Terraplane.
Any idea what a Terraplane is?
I have no idea.
No idea. But it was in the show.
Yeah.
It made the A.
Earl Allen was driving it.
Of course he was.
Does that help?
No, not a clue. Not a clue. We'll have to ask Lawrence if he knows.
So the first race meet, they called it a race meet, was won by Jimmy Davis.
Jimmy Davis, he took the win
out of San Antonio. So he pulled all the way from San Antonio.
That was a long drive back then. He probably pulled the race car with the same car he raced, or he drove it back.
Coming down Highway 9.
Just getting it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. No, that's cool, man. That those guys putting on a show, 1,000 people in the stands on a Tuesday. That's a big deal. Like, if we could pack the stands like that now, it'd be great.
So a couple things I wanted to point out too. The owner of the racetrack was H.C. Wolf.
H.C. Wolf.
Does that ring a bell?
Does
Guess we'll have to
not.
ask Lawrence.
Does, yeah. Lawrence has the encyclopedia on that.
Sorry, Lawrence.
H.C. Wolf was the owner. We have not been able to determine an exact area where the track was at, but man, just the knowledge, just the history of it. What other info you got on that deal?
So the very first article, the July 3rd article, they're interviewing H.C. Wolf, and he asked in the article to be printed, asked for the cooperation of the general public for Tuesday's race in the event of an accident by staying still, regardless of how serious the accident might appear.
So stay where you're at. Even if the dude flew out, just stay where you're at.
So apparently it's a problem. So,
even today it's a problem.
Yeah.
I bet they weren't speeding in the pits then. I bet that wasn't happening.
And then he goes on to say, when a car turns over, it does not always stop the race. Just keep racing. When a car turns over, it does not always stop the race, Wolf pointed out, and the crowd must stay off the track at all times during the race meet. So basically, there was a few rules for the fans. Do not jump in a moving race car without a driver. That's
just
correct.
let it go. Just let it go. And those values still need to be followed today.
And you think, well, how would H.C. Wolf know this is the first time they've raced in Corpus Christi, right? But according to the article, they raced in San Antonio on Sunday, so they had one day off.
It was a traveling series at this point.
Yeah, it definitely was. So the track was a half mile. It's a big track.
I would imagine it was half mile sand, you think? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out where this was at, but
yeah.
Daytona Beach was sand, and they put on a bunch of races there, so to have this in Corpus, that's pretty cool. If anybody has any info or know some family members that might have some photos or some info on this, don't be afraid. Send them to us at our at our Thunder Road email, man, we have no problem putting some of those photos up, some more of those stories about that. Mike took his time and researched this stuff, and this is what he was able to find. So if you got some more info, don't be afraid to share it with us.
So the track, I believe, was probably some sandy loam because they do talk about ruts developing and having to pack those ruts in during the week because they have a race coming up on Sunday again. They race Tuesday, they're racing Sunday, and they're talking about the track prep.
So just getting out there and fill in the holes, pack her down, and go at it again.
Yeah.
What kind of lap times did they run on this deal?
Well, it's a half-mile track, mind you.
Well, they were getting it then for a Model A.
34 to 35-second lap times.
Yeah, that's hauling the mail. That's hauling the mail with a Model A or Model T. I'm not exactly sure, but that's a decent rate for back then. And a lot of these guys probably drove these cars to the race and then drove it home or pulled to the race with a very similar car, so they had spare parts. What other info do you have for us on that track, Mike?
Well, so they raced on Tuesday and got 1,000 folks in the stands. And they have another race scheduled for the very next Sunday, I believe is the 7th or the 8th, I believe. And they're preparing for twice the crowd.
Oh man, 2,000
Yeah.
on a Sunday.
Yeah, I don't have an article to back that one up though.
Well, we can only hope that it happened. We can only hope that it happened. We could say, man, 2,000 folks on a Sunday
if you
on
look
Shoreline.
If you look at these pictures, I don't know if you can get another 1,000 folks in the stands.
Well, on this front stretch photo, it looks like it's pretty full. Front stretch photo is full. Like you said, there's not really a wall there. Picture 2 shows a little bit of space so they can have some growth. And the turn there, looks like some folks are up on the wall watching the races. I don't know, they probably didn't get a pit pass. They should have probably policed that a little bit.
Yeah,
but
either couldn't afford to be there or wasn't allowed.
they were having a good time. Let's just say they were having a good time watching the races. So looking at picture 4, looks like it was a photo finish. Obviously, they had some timing devices to figure this out. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool deal. But who was the winner of this show?
That would be Jimmy Davis.
Jimmy Davis won the show. I bet he signed some autographs and kissed some girls and had a trophy girl and the whole deal. So that's pretty cool, man. That's history right there that we got to get out to the folks. Everybody needs to see. Man, you guys can check out these photos. Just click the link to the YouTube page. Watch our podcast. The photos will be on there. If you have any info, any of that stuff, any info, any input, send it to us, email it to us, get a hold of us one way or the other. Man, Mike, I do appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you looking into the history of that stuff, and I do appreciate you being the historian for the Thunder Road podcast. We may send you off on some other adventures. Yeah. We have a few questions about some other tracks in the area, some stuff that I've been able to find. I don't necessarily have the time, but hopefully you do.
I might.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share our YouTube video, our Facebook page. Once again, thank you to S&S Monuments. Thank you to Top Hat Signs and Designs, Proline Fabrication, 112 Bodies.
And once again, we'd like to extend our condolences out to the Whitaker and Carter family.